Welcome back to my Roman kitchen. Today we're going to do one of my new recipes that comes from the new book, Roman Recipes for Modern Cooks. And I've chosen a simple one. It's a salsa verde. Now, salsa verde is one of those phrases that you find everywhere. Italy, Spain, South America. It's a green sauce. It often goes with fish. So I'm going to add a few more extra ingredients. Okay, so the recipe in Apicius says another sauce, that's always the title, alitur, for grilled mullet. Rue, mint, coriander, fennel, all of them green, with pepper and lovage and honey and liquamen and a little oil. That's the basic sauce. It's very, very simple. But salsa verde has changed a lot over the centuries. It's become much more a mixture of sweet herbs and sour, so with vinegar. So I'm adding vinegar. I'm going to make it a little bit more modern. I'm going to add some modern ideas to the whole concept of salsa verde. And also I'm going to be really controversial and add garlic. Now, any Roman that considered themselves to be wealthy and elite didn't eat garlic because it made them smell, and it meant that they smelt like a peasant. Because peasants were not stupid, they ate garlic because they knew it was very good for them. So I'm going to add garlic to my salsa verde and be like a Roman peasant. Now, in South America you get salsa verde with chili and tomato. We're not going to go that far, but we are going to add garlic. So to start with, as always with our sauces, we start with our spices, and so we roast our spices. And in this case it says lovage, and I know you can't get lovage. It is very hard to get it, lovage seed, but you can get dill, and it works very well with dill. So we're going to adjust the recipe to make it easier for modern cooks, Roman Recipes for Modern Cooks being the title, to make these sauces. So you want a good teaspoon of dill, a little bit extra. Let's do it in the hand because the spoon won't go in the jar because they're all different sizes, these jars. There we are. And all we need to do is give them a little toss over the heat to make them pop. Right, that'll do, because they're popping, they're jumping, and jumping is what we want. So we'll leave that for the time being. Then of course we add our pepper, because pepper is always in these sauces. And we want a little bit, just enough to give it some pop. So there we are. And we start our pounding process. I want a nice fine powder. Oh, that's a good smell. Oh, that is. So then I'll finish doing my garlic. And we're going to add fresh coriander, fresh mint. I have some fresh rue, which we're going to pick behind us. It's still growing in my garden. Again, you won't have rue. Because most people don't have it. It's not considered a culinary herb at all. I love it. It actually adds a wonderful bitterness, which is very effective. If you have it, use a tiny bit. You always need a tiny bit, but don't stress about it if you don't. Or what you could add instead is some thyme. So we'll go behind here. This is nice, I like this. You just pull it off the plant. You don't want much. So we'll add those in first because they're quite resinous and slightly tough, and so they'll need a lot of grinding. And we'll also add our garlic. There we are. So we'll now add our garlic in little pieces, and we'll do a little bit of pounding and get things moving. So that's brilliant. Beautifully pasty. Everything is all melded together. So now we have the process of picking over our coriander and our mint. Now, if you were going to cheat, and I don't mind if you cheat, you can cheat and use a food processor. It's easy because you can put the stalks in, but in a mortar the stalks tend to get a bit stringy, and so this is the kind of occasion where we have to cut, because it'll take me a while to pick it over. I think I've got enough. I've got a nice, really good, generous, you can see, a handful. Put it all together in your hand. You can't get any more in your hand, and that's about it. And I've taken most of the stalks off. There's a few left, but it really doesn't matter. So I think we will chop them a little, because it just makes life easier. I don't want to spend too long pounding. So we just put it all together in a huge great lump and hold it tight and squeeze it. And then you can, amazing how many small pieces you can get doing it that way. And move your fingers back. There.
That's nice, Sal.
Yes, beautiful knife, isn't it? My favourite knife. For those of you who don't know, my lovely cameraman Rod is also a blacksmith, and he made this lovely knife for me. And it's a joy to work with. It's got a lovely heavy weight. Right, that'll do. All this goes in. And then the process of pounding begins. This is where I wish I had a food processor.
A slave would do, surely.
A slave would be brilliant. And that's, I think, what they were doing a lot of the time in the kitchens, was doing this. It's just so quick. And it's the grits, as we know, from the mortar, but it's also the spices themselves and the friction. It's funny, modern production of salsa verde, I've seen them being made quite often, and it's a different kind of mortar altogether. It's tall and smooth, and all you do is this. And of course it works in the end, but being able to turn is what makes a Roman mortar so special. And look at that now. I don't know how long I've been doing it for, 20 seconds, if that. You can see all the stringiness because of the stalks that you miss. So I'm missing a little bit of something I forgot. This is my own grown fennel, and fennel's on the list. So we just pull it off. I've got fennel growing all over the garden. It seeds itself beautifully, so I always have access to fresh fennel, which I think is lovely. But it's important to get that fennel taste. I think I'll stop there. So we go on, we pound those in. Okay, I will now prepare the fire, because we're going to cook our mullet. So I need to improve this fire a bit, get some decent flame. So what we're going to do is sear our mullet only on one side, so that the skin gets really crisp and you don't need to turn it at all. That's the secret. I'm just going to add a little bit of really dry wood, because I know it'll burn fierce, because I want a really fierce heat. And so my other bits of wood are just stuff from the woods. We need to get this hot. Decent amount of oil. And I buy honey from a local supplier now, after all the news about how much sugar syrup there is in it. Disgraceful. And then 2 of vinegar. This is the new ingredient. This is not in the Roman recipe, but I do think it's necessary. 2 of fish sauce. And this is quite a strong fish sauce. This is a coloratura. You want something with a bit of punch, because it helps. And then we have oil, and the oil is in the pan. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. because they're nice and firm, I'm going to turn them because they're a little bit raw on the bottom and that's not good. Yeah, and that really does it, because there's very little of that fish that isn't cooked. Right, so I'm going to take it off the heat, yeah, because it'll overcook, and then we're going to get our sauce and we're going to run it down the fish and let it sizzle into the oil. And now we can dish. So I'll take one of these, perfect stand, off we go. Okie doke. We got ourselves a bit of a garnish because we're trying to make it fit for a dinner party. And then there we go. So I'm going to call my husband Chris, who's waiting patiently inside, and Rod's going to have a go. So we've got 3 forks. Well, yes, it warms us up a bit.
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
Well, salsa verde with mullet. Would you like to have a try?
Of course I would.
Yes.
How could I resist?
Go on.
Looks
Yes.
like you want to try as well.
I know. Go on. And Rod, even though you're holding the camera, do you want to come in?
Dig in, thank you.
You
You're
dig
gonna
in too.
Excellent.
So we
Right.
did this in the garden about a year and a half ago,
I remember.
if you remember.
There you go.
Mwah.
Oh, there we are.
Oh,
Excuse me.
that is stunning. Even though I say so myself.
Oh, that is stunning. It is stunning. That is really.
And one of the issues about salsa verde is that it's normally made with just one herb. It's parsley. All over the Mediterranean, all over South America. Parsley. And sometimes it's coriander, but it's always one herb. It's a mono flavour. And what you get with all kinds of Roman sauces, it's a huge combination of different greenery with a huge, it's so much more complex, the flavours, because of that. So that was the first of the new recipes from Roman Recipes for Modern Cooks. We're going to do, if Rod is willing, a little series of the new recipes that I've developed in writing this book. I'm quite excited because there's some really new and interesting combinations of flavours that you get if you look at what's happening in the modern world and let it influence how you cook it. The publisher has been immensely generous and given me 40 copies. Send me some messages. Introduce some new friends, get me more subscribers, and we can arrange to send some out. I'd love to send some out to you. People that are loyal, have been watching me for the last 2 years. Send me your messages, send me your addresses. Thank you for listening and see you next time. Bye bye.